Hey guys, I'm Thomas, man behind God's side. You know, before I get started and explain why I'm making this video, I want to thank the Lord for everything He's done for me, for this channel, um, for my family, for you guys. I also want to thank you guys for your subscriptions, for your support. It's meant a lot. It really has. Um, as I do say, more than words can express. I know I use that a lot, but it's true. I really do appreciate it. I really thought this channel was just going to be really me, something for me. I wasn't expecting it to grow or for other people to connect with it. I just was doing it something to really um, help me out, especially with my health as it goes up and down. So thank you, truly thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to be here and for your continued support. Um, this video has been hard, a lot harder than I thought it would be to make. I've been a writer for over a decade. I've even have a few books that I've authored, self-published stuff. Nothing major. Uh, I've done a little public speaking, and I've shared my testimony with individuals. I've even written a book about it. It's not for sale, but I hand it out to people when the Lord sends them to me. But I've never done anything like this. I've done video work. I just haven't been on this side of the camera. Uh, and I've spent 2 days trying to film a 5-minute video. And so I don't even know if this is going to be the take I use. So I since I'm legally blind, I can't use cue cards. It's gotta come out of my head. And I can stare at the blur that is the camera. But sharing all this music comes out of my daily spiritual warfare battles, trying to love God every day. And this week in particular, there's 2 songs that come specifically from some of the extraordinary things that happened to me. And which is why I wanted to make this video so I can explain it better than just, writing text. And because I use so much AI, I didn't want people to think that's what the channel is. There's a human being. I'm behind it. There's a human being involved, and it's exactly what I say it is. It's me trying to share what I've learned through the spiritual warfare that we were forced to go through, that we needed to go through in order to come back to the faith, in order to believe, to truly believe. And Thomas is my name. It's just not the name that I use all the time, but it's the name that fits me the best, especially for things like YouTube, because I am the quintessential doubting Thomas. And God knew that. And that's why I believe I had to go through what I went through in order to actually believe. I had to see to believe, which is, a weaker faith. But it's been hard, and it's been weirdly hard, and things have been happening and getting in the way and interrupting, and I'll probably make an outtakes video because of all the weird things that keep happening when I try to shoot this. Um, but having said that, so I just ask you to please be patient with me, especially, I don't know if you like this video or if you prefer the weekly um, posts, the weekly written post over a video post. If you do, please let me know in the comments one way or the other. But, I hope to start a podcast where I can share my testimony in more detail and talk about some other things. It's a Catholic podcast. But that's partially why I'm doing this too, is practice. But yeah, it's weirdly difficult to talk about this stuff. So just I ask for your patience and your understanding as I try to navigate this very bizarre moment, I guess. So this week's music, as I mentioned, is all about my daily spiritual warfare. By the time this video drops, it was supposed to come out on Monday at noon, but that didn't happen. And because this took a lot longer than I thought it would. So a couple of songs have already dropped, especially the "Don't Let Me Quit" song that dropped on Tuesday, which I've listened to a lot actually, because that's really what I've wanted to do. I wanted to quit everything, but I can't. It's not really an option. So I'd love to go in a cave by myself, talk to the Lord, and just tell the whole world to go jump in a lake. Well, that's not how it works. We don't get off that easy. So um, here I am. But yeah, this week there's two songs in particular that really came from inspirations from the extraordinary stuff I went through. And one was the first one, which is Thursday's song, and I won't ruin it because my sister says I ruin it too much by telling everybody too much stuff. Um, was from like 20 years ago, actually. I didn't even know it was extraordinary. Um, my daughter was just born, and she was crying a lot. We thought she had colic, but it was actually, she was just hungry. My wife's milk was not fatty enough. And so once we put her on formula, it was like night and day. It was wonderful. But before that, I was, I was by myself with my daughter, brand new father. She was screaming her head off. I hadn't slept in like a week and a half. I was really losing my mind. And I was in this apartment and holding her, and I got so desperate that, I just cried out to the Lord. I was like, Lord, what do I do? Now, to put this in context, I was raised Catholic. I come from a large family. I'm number 13 out of 14 kids. But I fell away from the church. I wasn't practicing Catholic. I wasn't doing anything probably up until, high school. I was going to mass because my parents made me go to mass. I didn't really understand it, didn't really believe it. And after what I went through, I said if people taught spiritual warfare in the Catholic Church, you'd never leave. That's for another video. Um, but anyway, so I was sitting there, she was crying. I hadn't been to mass. I believed in God, but I didn't believe. I thought I wouldn't go to hell, and so he was God, he's love, he cares. All that stuff that most people buy into just to make themselves feel better. And so I was sitting there and I was like, God, what do I do? And I meant it. I was like probably the most pure prayer I've ever done in my life. I was desperate. I was at my wit's end. I was like, God, what do I do? And he answered, literally, as crazy as it sounds. And see, this is why it's hard to talk about, because it sounds absolutely insane. Um, it happened a lot 20 years later in the middle of the spiritual warfare stuff. And in the middle of coming back to the church, what I call my prodigal son party, it happened a decent amount. And I called the thought drops. I didn't know later they were called locutions by the church. I didn't understand that. I didn't know. I do now. But back then, 20 years ago, I was sitting there holding this baby. She was screaming, and I heard in my head, as loud as day, as loud as anything. And it felt like it came in directly from the top down, which I know that I'll explain that sometime later. And it was loud, and it said, serve others. That's it. And what happened was this immediate peace, like a peace I've never felt, just come right over me. And I was like, okay. And so for 20 years, I remember that. I didn't understand it, but I remembered it. And now it makes sense after everything I've been through. Before then, I was like, did I do that? Was that coming from me? No, that didn't come from me. So that's the inspiration for Thursday's song. It's a song about that. Now, Friday's song is a bit heavier, it's a bit darker, and it's something I've shared in the past in written form with you guys. It's about my near-death experience. Now, this was before we had ended up with the big, heavy, diabolic oppression that we had. Probably a good year and a half before. And I had, my health was already tanking, and I won't go into that. We all have our crosses, but it's a weird thing that no doctor can figure out. But anyway, I had a parathyroid tumor. And I don't think you can see it anymore, but I had a scar right here. And so they had to go in and remove this tumor. And I've had surgeries before. This on my face is not decoration. I had an accident when I was 16, lost my eye, and you can guess from what from. Yes, Christmas Story movie. And I've had surgeries before and went fine. It was fine. I'd come out of them. It was fine. And so, but this time in the recovery room, I had the surgery. It lasted longer than it was supposed to. And from my perspective, the experience lasted a few minutes. From what my wife told me later, it lasted about 45. And so, if you've ever been in surgery, you know that you just basically fall asleep. That's what it seems like. But you black out because you don't really dream at all. And then you wake up in the recovery room, you usually feel lousy and you're like all groggy. This time, this time I woke up in the recovery room because I heard a beep, and it made me angry because I was tired. And so I heard this loud beep, and I came out of it, and I'm like, man, what is that beep? What? Somebody turn that off. I need to rest. That's what I was saying. I'd hear this beep, and when I'd open my eyes, um, now this was before I was legally blind, so I could see. But when I opened my eyes, my wife and my daughter were leaning over me. There was a nurse there, and I noticed they looked a little concerned, but I didn't care. I was tired. I had an overwhelming sense of being exhausted, like, you know, like you've been out working out hard and you just want to go to sleep. You just want to rest. You don't want to work anything else. You just want to go to sleep. And that's what I wanted. And so that's what I would do. I would come out of it. Because of this, I hear this beep, and I would close my eyes and try to rest. Now, I didn't know I was dying. I didn't know. My heart rate was dropping out the bottom. And they didn't know why. They still don't know why. But when I would go to sleep, it would be black. It'd be black. But then I would see, and the only way to explain it is a window or a television screen. It was a square. And in the square, I saw, I said it was 3 stone thrones. I don't know that. I just knew that's what they were. I just couldn't see the total things. I saw the backs of them. And I saw like the half back of one, the complete back of another, and the half back of another. And on these thrones, these stone thrones, I saw fire, flames, you know, reflecting off of them. I didn't know that was hell. Not then I didn't. Um, but what was really bugging me was in the darkness, in the blackness. You know, I was like right there. I was in this blackness. The window was there. These things were harassing me. And I couldn't see them. I don't remember if I could feel them. I just remember being extremely exhausted. I wanted to rest. And I was saying to them, because I knew they were there, I could hear them, leave me alone. I want to rest. Just leave me alone. I want to rest. It was like a nightmare. It's like that's what it felt like, a nightmare. I actually thought I was sleeping. I thought I was dreaming. I didn't know I actually was dying until months later. Or even when this diabolic stuff started. I didn't know that was even hell at the time. So when I would say, leave me alone, they'd laugh. And the laugh wasn't like a normal laugh. It was a laugh I can't even explain. Evil. If evil had a laugh, that's what I heard. No horror movie, no fantasy, no nothing could ever really portray what I heard. And then, you know, I would come out of it. I would suddenly hear this beep, beep, beep. I'd come back out. I'd be like, man, turn that off. I'm tired. And I'd go back and it would repeat. And to me, it felt like minutes, like a few minutes. That's all it felt like. Until finally, the one time I went back under and I could feel myself not coming back. So I literally willed myself to open my eyes. And what I mean by that is I literally said to myself, open your eyes, open your eyes, open your eyes. And by God's grace, I opened my eyes. Now, my wife didn't really talk about this much because, I had a lot of health problems going on at the time. And this was just another one. It's like another blip on the radar. And my other health problems have already impacted her. And this scared her. It really did. And I didn't know I was dying. As dumb as that sounds, I didn't know. I had no idea. I didn't understand the whole thing. I didn't get it. And I believe, and that didn't turn me around. So that didn't change my faith path at all. And so God decided I needed more. Why? I'm the quintessential doubting Thomas. And so we started having the diabolic oppression. And I'll save that for another video. But it's only after we went through all that that's when I realized that's what I saw. That's what I was going. That's where I was headed. And so Friday's song is geared on that. And I know I've done a song along that, which is like, no rest for the wicked, which it was, no rest for the wicked. But, people don't believe that it's real. People think this world and getting ahead and money and comfort and that's why we exist. And it's not. It's totally not why we exist. But how do you explain that to people when they didn't go through what you went through? It's like combat veteran trying to explain combat to someone who's never been in it. They just wouldn't understand. And I guess that's why it makes it so difficult to talk about this because, when I talk to other people who have experienced something similar, they get it. They get it. But like talking to the camera right now or talking to you at home, I don't know. You may not. And that's not up to me. All I can do is speak truth and that's it. The rest is in God's hands. So, I wanted to convey this in this manner to you because it's weighty, it's heavy. It's more than text can really convey to you. And I was hoping that I could do it better visually and introduce myself because I want you guys to know that, I'm real. I'm here. I can't see great. My health is all over the place. We all got our crosses to bear. Mine's that. There's much worse out there. I mean, my poor nephew, he has Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, and he's a young teenager in a wheelchair. And, he's got much worse than I do. But by God's grace, after I went through what I went through, his mother and him, they both came back to the church. Thanks to the Blessed Virgin and her intercession. And she played a huge role in my coming back to the church, which, on my other podcast channel, which, maybe I'll link to it. I don't know when I'm going to launch it because my health is all over the place. But I'll link to it. There's nothing on there right now. I don't know when I'm going to get something on there. But I'm going to probably go through this thing in detail. I even talked to my wife and daughter to see if they want to go through it with me so they can talk about it from their perspective because, they went through it too. So that's why I made this video. And I apologize. I'm not a professional orator. And I'm sorry this took so long. But thank you for being here. And thank you for listening to music. And I hope it helps in some way. Forgive me for my inconsistencies. It's there are some days are good hour by hour. That's how I am. I could be good one hour, be bad the next, health wise. So appreciate your understanding. I appreciate your support. And if you prefer this kind of communication on this channel, let me know. And I'll see if I can do more, God willing. So, all right. Well, as Padre Pio says, St. Pio says, pray, hope, and don't worry. Because really it's no point in worrying. It doesn't do any good. And, may God bless you, keep you, and protect you as all of us try to navigate this narrow road together. And I'm telling you, it's not an easy road. So hang in there. All right. Thanks, you guys. Till next time.